Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for this amazingly poised World Scrabble Championship final. After the next couple of games, will it be congratulations to David Eldar, or for our Dutch friends, will it be give Alyssa Beard to Nigel Richards? Nigel will be starting this game, the third game in the best of five sequence. We sat down with both players over lunch, both obviously interested in our thoughts so far. Oh, and Nigel instantly picks up Upgazed. Bang.
It'll be interesting to see how long he takes to get the bingo down.
Not very long for this one.
This is... except... so... it's going to be interesting. Immediately, David's there thinking, yes, I've got a great, powerful rack. Not quite as powerful as your opponent, David. We did, Harshan, who's commentating here with me, did ask Nigel whether he is consciously playing faster in this tournament. We did make the point that he's now been seeing bonuses and playing them fairly quickly. Nigel said, "Am I? I didn't really know that." So now he's got Upgauge there, and I wonder if for our effect he's just staring at it for a while.
Another vertical opening.
Yeah.
Normally you would make the blank a D rather than an S, just because the S is an easy one to bingo off for the opponent. It'll be interesting to see what he does here.
We'll have to see what he circles. Oh, he hasn't got they haven't got a score sheet. They need a score sheet.
They are stopping the clock to get a score sheet, it looks like.
Yeah.
There it
They're
is.
just going to write it down, and he's made it a D. Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
Upgazed.
106 to start. So Nigel Richards straight on to 106.
So we did actually talk to Nigel about this after the game, but it turns out in the last game, Quackle was analyzing the end game incorrectly, and Jarvie that Nigel played was a 75% favorite to win. He would have only lost to drawing one of the two ends. Quackle actually misevaluated this end game, saying it was only 25%. So the rule here is that if Quackle and Nigel differ, Nigel is probably right and the computer is probably wrong.
Yeah, may the odds be in your favor.
Nigel is on 108. No, 106, sorry.
So David would love to have a C for a Sequias here.
So it's easy to get disheartened by this kind of opening, but you know the average, on average, David's going to score 30 to 40 points on this board, and he's only going to be 70 behind. And if you're going to go 100 points behind, it's best to go 100 points behind at the start of the game. Plenty of time to catch up.
It's an interesting choice, though. He has his highest scoring play by far is playing Squiz, which only leaves AAE. Normally, you would not want to play all your consonants like that, but it's such a big score difference between that and his other plays. It might actually be worth doing here.
As a general rule, if you're not sure what to do in terms of position or leave, it's probably best just to take the points and run to a galaxy far, far away.
He's considering Akwai, I think, which is equally a good consideration. 28 points, keeping AIS.
The simulation has Akwai level pegging with Squiz, and also a third very different option, which is AE from I-12.
Okay.
AA seems to be simming very well for me, making ZA and EA. And that's in fact what he did.
17 points. They're taking David to, 17 points.
According to my simulation, this is actually the sim winner right now, the way play he made.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very well thought out play. I think a lot of people would play the queue off as getting in the way of bonuses, but David's giving himself a chance of picking out high scoring bonus to get back in the game. Having said that, FG is non-synergic. Nigel now looking...
So Nigel's got the he's got the option of extending ZA to Zanja, keeping EEKU. That's by far the highest scoring move on this board.
And that is in fact what he's doing.
And annoyingly, it was his opening move in one of the games we played this tournament. I was sitting there needing a G for A Genesia, and he played A, J, N, A, Z.
Oh, he has a star play here. It is most definitely playing Feeks and Zanjas.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
doubling both the F and the Q nicely.
I don't see anything else even remotely close.
One way or the other, this board is rapidly turned into a box, isn't it?
It's a Nigel board. Yeah.
In this kind of situation, when you hook a S on the end of Zanjas and make a right angle,
42 for Zanja takes Nigel to 148.
scores 148 to Nigel, 17 to David Elder.
Oh, he's not going to play. He's going to play Guquin.
Interesting.
Well, reasonable. Keeping the S for Zanjas. Guquin scoring 35, taking up to 52, but he's still 96 adrift.
It is. This to me is a play to the score. If it were an even game, he would definitely be playing Feeks because it's a big point sacrifice, 19 points. But he needs to get a bingo to get back in it. So he wants to play aggressively, keeping the ES early on while the board is still open.
If you look at this board, apart from reaching the Eastern triple with a 6-letter play, it's going to be hard for Nigel to score on this board without a bingo. And that can be an effective strategy, even if you're significantly behind.
Yeah. I mean, Nigel has got geeked now, which, of course, he's got set up on his rack, and he'll play pretty quickly.
He needs an extra letter for flex times here.
So
39, taking Nigel to 187. So Nigel 135 points up on a board that is rapidly boxing, actually. And he plays around the letters of geek now. And look at the shape of this board already. Nigel with the nightmare 3-letter combination of V-U-W, but he's got the R that turns it into V-R-O-U-W.
Yeah, this is actually a good break for David, though. He's got better letters for scoring than Nigel for the moment. I was going to sort out some of his consonant troubles, but it doesn't mean that Nigel's probably going to be slow enough on the next turn that if he can make big things happen in the next 2 turns, he can get back in the game.
Yeah.
I think Dave's just got to keep scoring and to keep within range. He can't really afford to give up points to shape the board the way he likes.
He
He's
can
just
play
got
flexes.
Yeah.
Making us is a pretty good play because he scores well, clears out a lot of his consonants, and creates new openings on the top part of the board.
So looking at the sim, Flexus is quite competitive with the higher scoring option of Sext of putting the S on the end of Zanjars.
That, again, is a play you would play when you were ahead, not when you're behind. Sext is a good play to score a lot, but it doesn't really open up the board more, and keeping the high point tiles is not a way to give yourself bingo chances.
So when you simulate this position, you're only looking 2 turns ahead, and really long-term board management, the benefits of doing that are not reflected in the sim.
Oh, yeah. If the score were the other way around, Sext would be a great play to protect your lead, but I think in this situation, a play like Flex is much more called for, or Flexes.
Now, the other way of looking at Flex is that in the short term, it develops the board. However, if Nigel reparallels Flex with a further play, it exhausts the top right quadrant. Whereas if you don't play there, unless Nigel can parallel geeked, it leaves that quadrant open for development in the future.
It's true. There's something to be said for playing Flexes 1 over, not making US, but off the second D in Geek because of where the triple words or triple letter score is. It means that he's going to have sort of less profitable parallel plays to block there.
Thinking ahead, it looks like Nigel's got Wawa lined up off the first E of Geeked. That's what he's got planned for the next turn.
Be interesting to see which way he goes here.
I think David's looks like he's got flexed.
Oh, he's got flexed on the bottom off the D and up gaze too. That's a very interesting choice because that doesn't interfere with the open E's and Geeked at all and creates other possibilities on the board.
So he doesn't have another E.
Yeah.
Oh, he only has 1 E, that's right.
Yeah.
So he might be considering, he's playing Sext. I think he's going to play Sext.
He's going to take the points, 44 points.
Taking out to 96.
So that's 44 for Sext compared to 34 for Flexers.
It is interesting. He doesn't open up the board as much on top, but he's also leaving the status quo of the open letters in Geeked. I see a good point of that in terms of not filling up real estate, but the bad point is that if Nigel can make a play across, he can really sort of kill that Geeked lane.
Yeah.
What I've noticed about Nigel is that he really, really likes to monopolize hotspots. So he's going to feel quite uncomfortable about leaving that triple word score at the bottom right corner open.
Vitro. Vitro would do that. I mean, it wouldn't solve the WU problem, but it does keep the WO for plays underneath Geeked, perhaps, next move.
And from David's point of view, it leaves the floaters of Geeked unmolested by forcing Nigel to play in the bottom right corner.
That puts Nigel onto 2-1-4.
So Nigel's obviously still in very good position here, but one thing you can say is that this exchange sort of did work out in a good way for David because he outscored him on the Sext versus Vitro play, and he got Nigel not to make any plays interfering with the openness of the top part of the board.
And he forced Nigel to keep W or U on his rack, which he
Yes.
wasn't going to do before.
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately for David, his rack draw, or his foul drawing didn't really improve. He's still got a very consonant-heavy rack here.
Yeah.
From a positional point of view, David really wants to play away from Geeked, leave Geeked alone, play somewhere else, develop the rest of the board, but I'm not really sure how he's going to do that.
Filmy YU looks like a good way to do that. It creates the AYU and RYU hooks, so he has bingos down the left-hand side of the board, while at the same time clearing out a lot of consonants. And importantly, he's leaving DT on his rack, but he's also leaving open E's, which can really help him get bingos down, even if he is slightly consonant-heavy.
What Nigel would do in this kind of situation if he was behind is he would leave all that unoccupied real estate alone, and he would try to score strongly within the box until he was ready to branch out. That's what he would do.
Is anyone a fan of MILF?
Where would MILF play here?
Oh, no, it wouldn't. I was just asking. Just generally.
So it looks like David's considering Flighter through the first E of Geeked, and that would be a reasonable choice.
Well, the second E of Geek. The first E of Geek would not be a reasonable choice because it would make UD.
Good point.
UD's is good as a three-letter word with an S at the end, but it's one of what we call sticky S words, which is
so
not
my
usually S.
option would score more, but it would only score more if he stayed on the board.
But a flighted is quite reasonable in terms of score and leave. I kind of like Filmy better just to leave those E's unobstructed and to create that second lane of IU or IU.
I think we're all going to get a lesson in board exhaustion if he plays flighted. So, a lot of people think that flighted is an opening move, that it, extends the board, it develops the board, but it's also at the same time exhausting the board.
Well, it's a little tricky there because it starts with FLY. It's got three consonants in a row. So depending on Nigel's rack, it's not that easy to overlap unless he has one of the few consonants that goes in front of a Y.
I think Nigel is going to be quite pleased positionally after flighted.
Yeah.
He's going to be delighted by the way the
Delighted
board
by flighted.
And I think
like
that's exactly what David's worried about right now. That's what he's thinking. Flighter scores really well, 26 points, but he's not
No,
really
it's
happy
filmed.
about it
I think it's
positionally.
Filmed? He's going back and forth on this.
Yeah. A lot of choices. I think he's going for flighted, yeah.
So the sim likes flighted. It wins. He's ahead 6% of the time after flighted after 2 turns.
Puts him up to 1-2-2.
I think you really want to take sims with a grain of salt when it's got this big a scoring difference, though. When you're down by 100 or so, you need to think about not just the best simming play now, but the best plays for the long-term board shape and coming back.
I agree. Because all the choices will have a similar win percentage, i.e. low.
Yeah. So ideally now Nigel would like a 6-letter play. Well, ideally he'd like a bonus, but 6-letter play maybe down to the E to exhaust the right-hand side of the board, frustrate all of the floaters who've flighted. He doesn't have that. Options to power through simply with score, maybe to play Fur, making XU in the bottom right-hand corner, undoubling the W and the U.
Fur is a good play. It scores very well, and even though it's not a great leave, it does solve the problem of the WU. You really don't want both of those on your rack at the same time.
And it's a very Nigel play. Play within the box, score very strongly, and do not extend into wide open real estate.
Because if we look at the scoring threats on this board, if you don't have a bingo, where is David going to score points at the moment?
Exactly.
There is nowhere.
Exactly.
So you take out that and let David worry about doing something elsewhere, and still Nigel has the insurance that if he plays something through the floating L, for example, a flighted, a blocking play through L right now would completely kill that part of the board.
So in this situation, a lot of players, they would be worried about the threat of bingos to the E of Geeked or the D of Geeked. But actually, the more realistic, more frequent threat is just a high-scoring play, bottom right corner.
Absolutely.
Another thing to keep in mind for the long term here is the G and the D and upgaze are still open lines for.
So Nigel
8-letter
disagrees with our
words.
analysis by the look of things.
He's decided to keep the F and the U for Fur on the next move, so scoring. But he has set up Wolf for David. So 16 for Nigel takes him to 230, but Wolf will score heavily and clear up that rack.
So I think this is really instructive. So Nigel sacrificed some equity to reduce David's bingo percentage, and David hits him with a hotspot high scorer.
Yeah, 47 points, taking David to 169.
Yeah, this is a very good break for David. He's still trailing by about a bingo, but he has a few more open lines, and most importantly, he cleared out some of the trouble of his rack very quickly. Hopefully he can improve.
If we look at the board as well, the synergy, Nigel can now offload that F and maybe an I or the U, and he's got the G floating up gaze to combine with the IN on his rack, and he's going to probably keep TION. So he's still got a relatively synergic rack with the way that this board is developed.
David would have Dimer eyes to his head now, but the Z is no longer open.
Yeah.
It looks like Nigel's considering what he was going to play on the previous turn, FIR next to Sext, keeping us a lead which is compatible with this board, specifically the G of upgazed.
I think Nigel's reasoning there was he wanted to keep FUR for the future if need be, but also take out that E and D, especially because after flighted, 2 of the E's had been taken out. He could take out the last one and significantly reduce David's bingo chances there. As it turned out, though, David's rack was actually much better prepared for tour with Wolf than it was for a bingo through the E or the D.
So one way of looking at the situation is who benefited from that exchange of moves, and I would argue that David Elder benefited. He outscored Nigel heavily, but on the positive side for Nigel, the board's completely exhausted on the right-hand side, but at the expense of David significantly narrowing the lead that he had.
Yeah, you have to be patient sometimes when you're way down, that things will come together and that you can't get there all at once. And I think David is doing a very instructive thing here of having made a couple of exchanges that have worked out in his favor, and he's still far behind, but there's still a lot of open space. There's still the D and the G and upgazed for 8-letter words ending there, even ING ending 7s on row 7 making GU, for instance. And a lesser shot, but there's the doubles ending in AL and the L inflated, for instance. And there's enough room on the left-hand and upper part of the board that with some more maneuvering plays, they can open that up for more bingo lines.
So the Quackle Sim, it's a dead heat between FUR and FIR bottom right corner. And it's interesting that, you know...
He likes that ING.
So he's decided to keep 2 I's instead of IINOT. He prefers IINOT to INOTU, and the sim completely agrees with that. There are 5 unseen tiles in the unseen I's in the pool.
35 for Fur takes Nigel to 265. David very quickly playing Ream. 21, 25, 28, taking up to 197.
So he had Ream.
That seems best.
Nigel now has Thionin.
So yes, the Ream play not only scores well, it's interesting in that it creates an R ending line, which is a more profitable one for ending bingos, but also there are only a limited number of letters that go in front of IF, so it is much harder for Nigel, if he doesn't have those right letters, to actually take that spot away, and plays that take that away are very low scoring anyway, and in fact, so this is a good board shaping play in addition to a good scoring play.
I'm quite interested that Nigel hasn't lined up Thanin so far, and I'm really interested to see how long it takes to play it on the board.
There we go, yeah. Well, yeah, there we go.
So count the seconds, guys.
Boom, here we go, here we go.
Okay, not that long. He didn't sit there for 20 seconds in his usual fashion. He's been playing significantly faster in this tournament, in my opinion, compared to this time last year.
67 points for Thionin, taking Nigel to 332. I should add, actually, that I realised that we made a significant oversight on the first move of this game, insofar as we, and I believe this is the official phrase, we should have said, "Ooh, blingo!" So we'll have to do this retrospectively, maybe edit it in.
Yeah, I mean, Nigel's basic heuristic is if he's got a blingo on his rack, is not to play. So I was actually quite surprised to see him playing upgazed.
Okay. I think David wants to play Merch here off of the H, which scores quite well and continues to open up the left-hand side of the board.
Ideally, he wanted to play Merch Isled, which is
Oh,
why he's got it set up. Yeah.
Oh, that's even better, but it doesn't quite work because of the R there.
Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah, a merchild being the son of a mermaid or the daughter of a mermaid and a merman.
That's a beautiful definition.
And a mercenary. Yeah.
I've seen it come up as a front extension of child before.
Yeah. Twichild. Godchild.
There's lots of elegant definitions in our dictionary. You guys should look up the definition of suit pile, for example.
Yes, do not look up the definition of soetpeel. And
Mhm.
if you speak Afrikaans, you probably already understand what soetpeel means.
That's one of my
but-
favorite definitions.
Yes.
What is David aiming for now?
Well, that's a good question.
So Quackle is recommending Milch onto the edge of Thionin, keeping RED for 24 points,
Oh, yeah,
which
yeah.
seems reasonable.
Milch is a better version of the Merch type thing, where he's opening up that territory but leaving some of his stronger tiles.
Milch is to do with milking, I believe.
It is. I think it's is it Hebrew or from that root, because you have Milchig.
Yeah,
It's like Fleischig.
that's from
Yeah.
German
Yeah,
actually originally,
German,
but also
so-
probably Yiddish.
Mm.
Yeah.
So let's look at Delict now.
So the scores are 3-3-2 to Nigel
Ooh,
Richards,
Delict
197
is-
to David Delta.
I like Delict even better than Milch because you triple the C, double the word.
Yeah, but
The leave is significantly worse, though.
and also it's relatively easy to parallel across the top of it. And
Yeah, that's the problem.
Exhaust
there.
the board, yeah.
I don't hate the MR leave, but I think the problem of the A going across there, or
Yeah.
the 8 row plays that score well and close the board is an issue.
So David's been really patient here. He's trying to narrow the gap
33.
by scoring heavily, as opposed to trying to break the board open.
Yeah, 33 for that, taking David to 230. So he's 102 points adrift. But he's done nothing really to create an opening on this board. I mean, it is patient, but
So the thing about this is the only real scoring spot is one that Nigel's actually very well poised to take, the aha in the top right. David's reasoning here, I guess, was to try to keep a low-scoring board so that if Nigel doesn't have his own bonus, he kind of has to plod along and not build on his lead while David hopefully hits a bonus. But it is a risky approach here because there is that one aha spot in the top corner that's just going to put him further a still decreasing number of open spots for bingo lines here.
This is classic Nigel Richards. The board is completely blocked off to the right. The left side of the board is unoccupied, and Nigel's knocking off the high-scoring hotspots one by one to the extent that Davis can't score anything without a bingo, and the bingos are going to be hard to come by on this board.
yeah. And in the immortal words of ABBA, knowing Dave, knowing Nigel, aha. Nigel didn't leave a floating A for motor car.
That would be beautiful.
Which would be beautiful.
He does have a good scoring play of Rom right along aha there, though.
Nigel has picked unpained onto the blank D.
Ooh.
29 for Nigel, and that takes him to 361, so he's 131 up. Yeah.
Moocher playing to open the board instead.
So David, he changes tack,
260.
decides to try to blow the board wide open with some extra floaters, which is reasonable.
Takes David to 260, but Nigel, we'll see how long he takes to play his.
I
only
guess the only kind of thought process before playing unpained is, I'm 100 ahead. What is the risk of a 9 timer through
Yeah.
the U?
bonus.
That's going to be his only consideration, really.
Yeah. Relatively low now.
Yeah. Not enough to stop him from playing it. If it was a
Yeah.
more dangerous letter than the U, maybe.
Yeah. He did not take long to make that decision at all.
Yeah, and only with the U it only makes treasure and austere, so no threat there.
So there's a blank and an S out from Nigel's point of view, or there
Yeah.
was, yeah. Sorry, that's from David's point of view now. So
So David finally has a nice bingo
So
rack here.
72 for Nigel, taking him to 433, so 173 up now. It's difficult to see how Nigel's going to be caught. He's got the S. He's got a beautiful rack and a blank maybe. Oh, very nice.
this game has been played at the speed of light, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So David is playing Remaster over Serrate and Smoocher, which
For-
would be his high-scoring play, but would
for-
open up the easy
yeah.
plays off the triple and sort of close down the lanes that he wants to leave open.
So he's trying to. He's given up 13 points for position, essentially.
Oh, but he's doing a different one now instead.
Yeah, he's
Terrains.
playing terrains to create the double-double line maybe.
Well, I'm not sure that's done much for the board. I'm not sure whether that's better for the
Yeah.
board and better for his chances of a comeback than the other choice. It's really hard to say, really. What do you think, Brett?
Well, I mean,
It's formed a box, hasn't it?
it has formed a box. It set up the double-double, so maybe he's got a shot, or he thinks he's got a shot at getting back into it from any play of Nigel onto the triple, because I mean Nigel's going to play on the triple now. There is no reality in which he doesn't now play through that U.
Maybe David's anticipating that.
But I think the thing is that Nigel could have played something parallel to break up that U and to stop the other floaters on Unpained. By playing terrains, he says, even if you make a parallel play down there, I'll still have floaters to play through in terrains.
62 for terrains, by the way, takes David to 322, so he's 111 behind.
I think that's exactly David's thinking. David, he thinks that the probability of Nigel covering that triple words go bottom left corner is 100%, and he wants to know what's the best board after that happens, basically.
Do we think maybe Nigel will burn an S again and play Yobs? He's got Yob lined up there, but Yobs underneath Unpained would take out the N, the P, the A, the I, and the
I like
other
that
N.
play quite a lot, yes.
Yeah. And that play has the simulation is misleading in this situation because everything wins 99%.
Yeah.
Everything. It's a difficult position to analyze, really. But I like your reasoning. I think positionally that would be the best, and it scores competitively.
Yeah.
So this is I've seen Brett make plays like this before, where there's an open line with a triple word, and it's so natural to want to make plays that cover the triple word score, but you don't necessarily need to actually cover the triple word score to block it.
No.
Good
so
point.
this is the move that Brett is suggesting here is Yobs under the NPAI and Unpained, which really, there's a very minor chance of an 8-letter word ending in a U, but that's almost impossible to happen. But the nice thing about that is that it breaks up all the other floaters, the NPAI, and even the N at the end of Unpained, because you can't fit a 7-letter word there, or an 8-letter word there, either.
It looks like Nigel's thinking of a similar move, which is Yob, without sticking the S on the end. It looks like that's what he's considering right now.
David has this bench lined up, but I don't think there's an H to play it off of.
I think just David... He's wanting to show us that he can anagram the 8s with that rack.
I think it's a good case in point, though, that a lot of players, they will learn this game, and you learn certain principles. You learn that keeping an S is a good thing. You learn that keeping a bonus-prone rack is a good thing. The difference is that Nigel didn't learn Scrabble in the way that the rest of us did, which is from other people and reading standard thought processes, which is often flawed. Nigel, I think, approached this game in such a way as to ask himself, how do I win? Full stop. This is not about, do I get an exciting bonus? This is not about, do I keep an S, because S's are, in inverted commas, good. It is, how simply do I play the tiles in the right way to win this game? And I think that is why he triumphs again and again against a lot of players who now they'll get transfixed around, oh, it's a triple, I have to take a triple. Taking a triple is a good thing, and you almost close down the rest of your mental reckoning, because it's not difficult to understand the concept of Yobs, but often people just will overlook it.
So what a lot of less strong players would do in this situation is they would completely trash their rack by trying to cover that triple word score square.
Yeah.
And there isn't a good way of doing that with this rack.
Well, and there is the Bayous. There's 45 points for Bayous.
So the only consideration with that is that there's only 4 tiles in the bag. So your ideal play should be 3 tiles.
It's still a 100% win, I think, in this case. He scores enough with Bayous that even a bingo by David going out, catching with a bunch of tiles, will not catch him.
So Nigel will be thinking in this situation, I have a lot of 100% wins. What is the best 100% win? That's his thought process.
So another thing I would say about that is that Yobs is necessary instead of Yob if you really need to take out that N for bingo starting with the G for GNU going down. If, hypothetically, Nigel saw that there were no possible bingos starting with a G through that N, then he would know he didn't need to play off the S to take that. With the blank still in the bag, can you be sure that there are no bingos that actually fit there? There might be. I'm sure Nigel knows whether or not there are.
If you guys want to understand how Nigel Richards has got as good as he's got, well, this is a live demonstration. He's got this game won. He's got an enormous number of different options of winning this game at 100% probability. But he's spending the time thinking through which one is the best option. How do you get good at something? You practice doing that thing over and over again.
But I think the other thing that this shows us about Nigel is that the reason he is so good is that what he enjoys is playing the game well. Winning the game is actually a secondary consideration, and it happens if you play the game well. But the reason that you don't see Nigel getting particularly animated, he enjoys it, but the win is really an academic thing. If he has played and solved the problem in the best way that it is possible to solve the problem, he is happy.
Mhm.
So the best way to solve this problem is how do I win by as many points as possible.
And he's playing Yob.
So it's not about what is my opponent, well, it is about what is my opponent going to do, but the priority is I, for myself, want to play the best move.
And I think Nigel benefits from that process indirectly, in that I feel that your typical opponent who plays Nigel probably plays slightly worse Scrabble against Nigel
Yeah.
than against other players. So there's an ancillary benefit to that.
Mm.
So in fact, I looked this up. With their remaining tile pool, even including the blank, there are no 8-letter words starting with G with N in 7th position that would fit through the N in unpained. So Nigel didn't actually need to play the S to block that lane off.
So 27 points, by the way, for Yob, taking Nigel to 460. So he's 138 points clear. There would be no bonus that would get David back into this now.
Just to recap the benefit of leaving one tile in the bag, the best case scenario for David Elder now is a bingo followed by one tile play, or a one tile play followed by a bingo. And the number of points you can score from one tile play is very, very limited. So over the two following turns, he is massively restricting David's options by limiting his second play to a one tile play.
And David plays seeding.
So
David's seeding the game.
Yep, absolutely.
And picks out the blank.
We
Yeah.
could hear David laughing on the audio there a little bit as he picked up the blank.
So David, by playing seeding, what he was trying to do there was to maximize his probability of being able to go out next turn. That's what he was trying to do.
He might have seen a possible bingo for Nigel as well and just wanted to take that away. I'm not sure. Oh, yeah, because the blank was still out there. So from his point of view,
Yeah.
Nigel was more likely to bingo than he was.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it achieves both outcomes. Absolutely,
Mm.
agreed.
Okay.
So
No.
we expect Nigel to play a completely accurate endgame as usual,
Yeah.
And he does.
and that's exactly what he's done.
He opted not to play goat there, which would have been across the top of unpained.
For those of you not in the know, GOAT is an acronym for the greatest of all time.
Is goat interestingly? Is goat's definitely not the right play across the top of unpained?
It's a 2 points worse. Togs
Okay.
and logs tie for the highest end game. This wasn't actually a hard end game for him to figure out because he knows that David's
Yeah.
going out.
So David, shock horror, David Eldas lost, leaked 2 points in this endgame choice of his, although he's not pressed the clock yet, has he? So he can increase his net score by 2
Sad.
points by putting
No,
S on the
not
front of
sad,
Moocher,
Yeah.
but it's possible he's not 100% sure of Moocher, and that may be the
Yeah,
reason he doesn't want to
Moocher,
play it.
yeah.
Interestingly, in a game I played against Brett earlier in this tournament, I played Moocher on my first turn,
Oh,
one short of the
Mooches,
triple line.
Mooches,
Mooches,
yeah.
and he hooked the front S to make smooches
Yeah.
to hit his own bonus.
Yeah. So what are the final scores in this, guys, so that we can update on the...
So the final scores, 496 to Nigel Richards, 363 to David Elder. So Nigel wins by 133 points.
I think the score is slightly off there.
I think it's the addition subtraction kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I should clarify for those listening at home that the software that we're using to keep track of this game, it does an American process at the end, and certain other countries where you double the number of points left on the person's rack at the end, and you add that to the person who plays out. However, standard rules, Wesper rules, so world rules, are that you take off the remaining points from the person who has the tiles and add on those points to the other person.
So it's 355 plus 3 extra points is 358 for David Eldar, and Nigel finishes with 496 minus 3, or 493 is his score. So
For
493 to 358 is the final.
For me, like one of the most interesting moves in this game was Nigel's choice of Tour, TWOER, mid-game. And I'm just looking at it now. It's obviously just a static simulation with all its limitations. But guess what? It's simulate stop. And I'll break that down for you in a second when I look at the details and compare it to the alternatives.
So I think the basic takeaway from this game is this was a blowout for Nigel in his favor. He got the 106-point winner to start the game, and was able to just keep the distance by keeping on pouring scoring plays, a few good defensive plays in between there. But David did a fairly good job of sort of creating a board where there were some comebacks possible. He just didn't hit his bingo until too late in the game. I think the most important thing for David is not reading too much into this, just shaking it off and keeping himself composed for the next game. It happens through no fault of his own. You can't do anything when your opponent opens with upgazed with a blank.
Was that the correct rack with this turn? FUT. Okay, thank you.
So that was relatively quick that we got through that one, having started at 1 o'clock. So the next game, I think, is scheduled for 2 o'clock. So we do have a short period now. Both Harshan and my colleague here, Dave Koenig, have been saying they would love to do a rendition of Wind Beneath My Wings for the 10,000 people who are currently listening. And I've had to explain to them that that isn't acceptable in a serious Scrabble.
I think that audience isn't quite big enough for me. I mean, if it were 20,000, I would strongly consider it, really.
Actually, I've just put that through the sim, and apparently Harshan singing does sim quite badly. So
hold that.
We're going to.
But in other news, I don't think we reported yet that the third place match had actually gone to a deciding fifth game between Peter Armstrong and Paul Gallen, which was happening concurrently with this game. It may still be going on. We will give you updates on that when that is completed.
Yeah, we'll definitely. Very exciting and still going on apparently. I'm not sure if we're able to get access to the camera that was in the
So
room.
it's interesting, that match.
Oh, no.
Sorry, you were saying, Harshan?
So the semi-final actually started like an hour before the final, and obviously it's gone to a deciding game.
Yeah.
I think it's just illustration that the finals have been playing at light speed, and Paul Gallen and Peter Armstrong are a lot more deliberate about their play.
They are more methodical players, but I think they also started during the lunch break for this last game.
There we go. So that's
it looks fairly advanced, that game.
Yeah, both in terms of level and state of play. We have. Interesting, we are simming the tour move, and it's really Fur that's still coming out on top as we look. So, but only by a small margin, 1% win.
10 points. It's 10 points worse on equity, though.
But with a score difference that big, it's not about playing for valuation in a lot of ways, right? Yeah, it makes sense to sacrifice some equity to reduce the big comeback chances. I think that, either play is good. Either way, Nigel is a very heavy favorite. But because sort of the worst case disaster scenarios for him where David comes back are ones where he hits like 2 quick bingos to the top right and then the on row 1,
I think
it does make sense to
I think Nigel's concern. I think Nigel doesn't mind conceding face value bingos at all. They're not very damaging. You can catch up face value bingos by scoring. Nigel's more worried about like 100-point bingo onto the triple word score.
Yeah.
That's what he's defending against with tour.
So there's 2 things about that. One is that he's got the open E, which increases the bingo chance a lot. The other is that there are 2 open Ds. There's the open D and upgaze as well. But if David did have a bingo ending in D, he would much rather him play it down on the bottom where it doesn't hit the triple than up to the O column on the top right corner where it scores a lot more. And
of course gives him a counterplay onto the triple.
And Nigel would have thought that in terms of an exchange of scoring players, if David takes that triple word score, well, he's still got scoring insurance bottom right corner with Fur next turn.
The other thing is that he's not that likely to take away the first spot himself, so he can. There's a good chance he'll be able to get it the next turn.
What time are we restarting?
All right, so I think we're going to take a short break and resume in about 20 minutes at 2 o'clock UK time for Game 4 of this exciting World Championship final match.
Okay, see you all very, very soon. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the fourth game of this best of 5. Nigel Richards on your left of the screen, currently leading 2-1. It's David Eldar on the right. David to start this, rooting deep in the bag. He appears to be counting the tiles. He's obviously planning his endgame strategy already.
So this is Dave Koenig and Brett Smitheram with the commentary on Game 4 of the 2019. This is Dave Koenig and Brett Smitheram with commentary on Game 4 of the 2019 World Championship.
And
Chris Leip and Harshawn had to step out for the moment, but should probably be back in the booth momentarily.
David opening immediately with Bardia. 76. Easy start, just what you need when you are 2-1 down, staring down the barrel of a gun. As Nigel picks out some pretty good tiles so far. Is it going to keep going? Oh, could it be good? Could it be bad? No. It's often how you know whether your game's going to go well or not, is that final tile. Is it going to be the vowel that destroys my rack, or is it going to be the consonant that gives me a bonus straight back? In this case, it's a consonant. So 76 for David Eldar.
These are instructive positions from Nigel here because there are a bunch of plays that don't score a whole lot of points, but that manage this rack and start to shape the board the way he wants to. So one thing he's looking at right now is EIDE, which he could play alongside the RDIE in Bardier, which is one of his best scoring plays. It's one of a few 19-point plays. If you wanted to sacrifice some points to go for a more open board, an alternative would be Boite, B-O-I-T-E, scoring only 14, but keeping an E on his rack and creating a more wide open board. I don't think Nigel feels like he has to desperately play to open the board just because of an opening bingo or anything like that. It'll be interesting to see which way he goes here. There's probably a relatively small difference between these plays. And it looks like Chris Leip has just rejoined us in the booth. I know that Chris was greeting the winner of the third place in the World Championship, Paul Gallen, who just triumphed in his match over American Pete Armstrong, 3-2 in the best of 5 third place match.
Yeah, Pete had to run and catch a flight quickly, so we gave him his 4th place, which is a mighty respectable finish. Well done to Pete, and congratulations to Paul.
Yes, great play by both players. And indeed, he does play Boite, aiming for the more open board and the slightly stronger leave there, the sacrifice of 5 points.
Boîte, in fact, which I think is a nightclub. It's box in French, but it does mean but it is used to refer to a nightclub.
That's right.
So mere 14 points for Nigel.
We'd have Lenified Fenellini, is what he just draw.
Yeah.
But first off, it is David's turn with Mug Eyes.
Yeah.
Mud Eyes is a word with a D,
Mud
but
Eyes.
with a G it is not.
Almost Magways.
Yeah,
as
Magways
well.
if it was an A instead of an E. So he's one off of a bunch of words here. But it's also a flexible enough rack. He should have something pretty good where he scores well and keeps the letters he wants to here.
In general, when you have 3 consonants and 2 vowels, you'll be able to do something.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what those vowels and consonants are.
So, for instance, a simple play would be Yug, Y-U-G, off of the E and R in Bardier. Yum is possible for 1 more point, but I would probably rather keep the E-E-M-S sleeve.
And it also slightly harder to parallel down the side of the UR if you've played Yug than Yum. Lots of reasons to offload the G instead of the M.
Mm-hmm. And also, Yug will take an S, but Yum will not.
Yeah.
Yug also takes the A for Yuga.
And Yuga, yep. What other options could we see? Not a great deal, actually.
Yeah, I mean, Quackle is suggesting plays that burn the S for more points, but that's not really worth it here. Yug looks like the pretty clearly best type of thing to do here. these guys are capable of coming up with great plays that no other player would see. But there are many times in a Scrabble game where you want to play simple Scrabble. The sort of natural, intuitive play is the right play, and that is one of these cases here. Many players of intermediate level would come up with Yug, and they wouldn't be wrong.
23 points, taking David to 99. An 85-point lead over Nigel. Nigel there had Defile lined up. Where are we thinking he was playing it under Boite, maybe? Or across the top of Boite? No.
Yeah, that's not going to be best, though.
No.
Was he going to play Defiler into the R?
No, I think the play he's going to play is playing Leaf, making FUR. That's pretty clearly strong here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And setting up again a nice parallel position for an ED ending down the side of the LI.
This is one of these nice positions where the play you want to make happens to be the highest scoring play as well. So it kind of works out nicely for him.
35, taking Nigel to 49. So 50 points adrift. Actually, David is on 98. Sorry, there's a slight counting error from my side. And Nigel... Oh, I thought Nigel was going to have Bardia as well. But he does have Daubia that will play at the moment.
Oh, making Yuga.
Yep. The aforementioned. Now, David's got things like Nemn underneath Boite.
He'd probably rather not leave quite the vowel-heavy leaf if he can avoid it.
Neem, that's the same thing. Or Neem down the side of Leaf. Importantly, he's unlikely to interfere with that hook on Yug.
Yeah. It looks like there's a good chance Nigel's going to get his bingo to get back in this game with Daubier in there.
Yeah. Let's try to see if there's anything else worth considering, really. I think Neem is...
Is it M-E-N-E along the top there?
M-E-N-E is an option, yep.
Again, it's one of these cases where he seems to have a lot of similar plays. So he's going to be thinking about not just scoring some points, but also shaping the board the way he wants it.
Yeah. And then is he thinking of playing Neem underneath Boite, or is he thinking about playing Neem down the side of Leaf? I mean, Neem down the side of Leaf does frustrate parallel plays along the LI, restricts plays to the A of Bardia. You would have to play a 3-tile overlap to play a 7 down the side of Neem, including ending in something that goes in the front of
Neem actually gives him a second spot for Daubier.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is true. A much better spot. Actually, both of them do, because obviously Neem takes a B on the end.
Oh, that's true. That's cute.
So he's about to give... well, either way, he's going to give Nigel the...
I doubt he'll take that Daubier spot unless he really wants that volatility.
20. Well, I don't know. I mean, it leaves the R next to the triple, so he'd have to... Well, he has got an E. David in a bit of a Zugzwang there. Wherever he played it, it was going to be worse for him.
So Nigel has an interesting choice here. Daubier making Yuga or Naugier making EMB. It looks like he'll score a few more points for the Neem spot, but he is sort of creating a lot of volatility in opening up that triple line with the R.
You're opening 2 triples, so I actually personally I'd fancy the Neem play. It's a 9. Oh, he's a 90-point spot. That's actually higher than both of them along the top of Boite. Oh yeah, of course.
This is a case where I think the points are worth it.
Yeah.
Taking the 90-point spot is better than the 83 or 80-point spot simply because it's raw points. It's true you are putting an R in the triple lane, but you have to just take that risk sometimes. I would take the points here.
Yep, absolutely, for that many points.
The score is 118 for David and 49 for Nigel.
Nigel waiting his customary 30 to 45 seconds before making a decision.
This is a good case if you find a good move, look for a better one too, right? It's very natural to see the spot for Yuga or even the spot for Neem and overlook this parallel play here. But Nigel, of course, finds the best spot for Daubier.
90 for Nigel, taking him to 139, a 21-point lead, and really not the floater that David was hoping for.
He's got rinsers, though, right?
Yep. Well, that's true. He doesn't need a floater.
Yeah, still, if there'd been a vowel there, he might have had a shot at a 9-timer.
Yeah.
But
We have ourselves a bit of a gunfight here. Both players have a lot of offense and some early bingos.
74 for David, taking him to 192. So he's got a 53-point lead, but Nigel's got an open R on a triple file.
We don't see any of Nigel's tiles yet.
Nope, which means that's got 7 blanks. So that's going to score him 59. Oh.
Oh,
It scores so much we lost the stream briefly. Actually, it's not
there we go.
that much.
So
Yeah.
Nigel has a clunky high number of consonants here.
Well, he has Narc for 39, which sets up Z for 44 next move.
That is true.
Or Tack and Kane.
Yeah, the Kane spot is big, but it doesn't do anything about the other big openings.
No.
Sometimes I think in a situation like this, it is true that you still have way too many consonants on your rack, but you don't want to fear making a play like Tack and opening up that top triple because of the fact there are a lot of other big openings too.
Yeah.
So you're not necessarily losing that much by creating an additional opening. The main question there is still holding all the other consonants. Will he be prepared to take those lanes on the next turn?
Mm.
yeah, I think after Narc, though, it's unlikely that spot for the Zed's going to be taken out. So you have a ready-made 40-point play to come back after your initial 40-point play. So that sequence, and then he'll come out with whatever he draws, but it's still a pretty good 2-turn sequence.
It's a good 2-turn sequence, but it's also the case that he'll still be holding VTT after both of those 2 turns. Sometimes you have to do the best you can with the racks you got, and Nigel, no question about it, has to deal with consonants no matter what. I do think there are interesting questions of whether he can do something else that cleans up this mess and leaves a play like Tack or Narc for the next turn and creates enough of a distraction. I don't know. It's tricky to do here, but he's doing something interesting. Oh, he's playing Tav instead of Tack. So he's figuring that the K helps him a little more than the V does to use the Z on the next turn.
Pretty much any vowel will give him a spot through the R, but that's...
And David quickly throws down Varia, leaving AAE. So yes, they kind of have opposite racks right now, where Nigel is plotting through the consonants, and David has a lot of vowels, but at the same time, a play like Varia is a godsend for David, because that could have been a very disaster rack if he didn't have a way to play off a bunch of vowels and take out that triple lane.
And Nigel has picked out all consonants.
It's an interesting thing with the Tav play is that if David does play through the R, he's still pretty likely to set up a spot for the Z.
Which he has with Zek.
Yeah, his Zek ZK. So this is exactly why he chose to play Tav instead of Tack, because he saw that Zek was possible there, and he saw in general that there were going to be more flexible possibilities with the Z and the K than with the Z and the V. For instance, even if that spot had gotten taken away and he drawn another E, he would have had Zek on the left-hand side over the RI and Rinsers.
Scores now 219 to David and 172 to Nigel. But as we know, Nigel is about to take the lead. – 60 points for Zek, a bonus play with 2 tiles, taking Nigel to 199. Really could do with picking a vowel now. We know David is hoarding a lot of them.
I think Nigel is at 232. We have a misscore here.
232 then? Okay, fine. 232. Nigel 232.
And David's at 219.
219. No, 232. Definitely not 323.
Yeah, 232. We got the 2s and 3s backwards there on Nigel's score.
Yeah, that's right. So both with some challenging racks. Nigel, as he often does during these games, is thinking about filth. Whatever gets you through.
So David has a very vowel-heavy rack. He does have the Dado hook up top, but the problem is that it's hard for him to make a play up there. He could play AID, I guess, would still leave duplicate A's, but would score decently well in that spot.
Could play Aida there and hope that Nigel misreads it as avian instead of Avain. There's something to be said for doing the unexpected.
I think the hope of that staying on the board would be a vain. It's an interesting conundrum for David here because the scoring spot on the top is by far his best spot, but there's also a really acute need to clean up his rack and put himself more in bingo shape, or at least scoring tile shape. If he keeps having to plod through very vowel-heavy racks, he's going to fall behind. So one way, for instance, is if he played Aida, not making the phony, but just making the A ending in AT, he would take out that spot. He wouldn't score as much as he would hooking Dado, but he would also solve his rack problems a lot more. And it does look like that is what he's aiming for here.
Yeah, the best leave of all would be to play AIA, but that puts the A right above the blue square, and even if Nigel's only drawn one vowel, that's a spot that can get hit pretty hard, whereas the blue square underneath the I is a lot more difficult to use with a big point tile.
David now on 240.
Also, with both blanks still out there, I think keeping AES rather than ADES is not that bad, and he wants extra shots to get at them, and he's also getting 6 extra points playing off that D.
David's going to pick out a load of vowels, I'd imagine. Oh, no. Okay. But Nigel, yeah.
Looks like Nigel almost has to play filth here. He doesn't have a lot of other options.
Yeah.
And he's still going to have duplicate ends on his rack on the next turn. The other thing that's unfortunate for Nigel about that is that he'll have all these consonants out in the open space and then all consonant leave. So unless he draws some vowels to repair his rack, it may be the case that David is better prepared to take those lanes on the bottom in the immediate future.
Any benefit to just playing 3 tiles Fern, or I mean,
Yeah, the problem with a play like Fern is that it's a little more defensive, but he's still leaving 4 consonants, only turning over 3 tiles. And the score is close enough at this point that you can't really afford to play like that.
It's too bad for David that all of Nigel's plays are through the I and are going to block puggeries.
What's
He's
he doing
changing.
here? He's changing,
Oh,
yes.
wow.
keeping
Maybe he won't block puggeries.
keeping RH.
I like the reasoning there of saying I don't want to create the filth situation that my opponent is going to be more prepared to take than I am going to be.
Yeah.
So I am instead going to just trade.
65 takes David to 305, so he's 83 up. But Nigel has kept HR, which is very synergic with that S. So we're going to see what has he delved out of the bag. Blank. X. G. Okay, you can all stand down. It's not that exciting. 232 for Nigel. To
305 for David.
305 for David. Oh, Nigel has both blanks.
Mm-hmm.
He has
But he still hasn't drawn a vowel.
But he hasn't drawn a vowel. He has big place for the X.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, it has hexagram,
Wow.
which would be face value.
Yeah. There's a good chance when you see bingos like hexagram that he may actually have something better than bingoing by breaking up the blanks here.
So what you're saying is he may pass up the blingo, 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 double blingo.
So it's a good general rule that having 2 blanks on your rack means that you often have an opportunity, especially when there's some other scoring tiles, to use one of them cleverly to score well with some of your heavy tiles and leave the other one behind to bingo with later.
Yeah. 42 points there.
Yeah, that's almost certainly better than the bonus.
274 taking Nigel 2, 31 behind, but with both blanks.
It's actually going to be big trouble for David because with that Q in his rack, he may not block the triple below, and suddenly Nigel's got a 2 blank shot at it.
Yeah. Ghostier. He has a 9 timer.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, I mean, this could be the turning point.
So David could play QIS to play defensively on the bottom. The question is, at that point, he would only give himself a 316 to 274 lead with Nigel on the move, and an ELT leaves. Does he want to create that kind of board when he could play QIS up top for significantly more points? You'd think that the game is close enough that he can't be too cowardly about the triple, and that he has to take the higher scoring play for QIS up top. But of course, Nigel will be very well poised to take advantage of it with Ghost Deer. Oh, he's thinking about playing Steely and holding on to the Q. Does he have a way to do that that actually sets up the I for the Q?
Not really.
No. Style.
Yeah, the
No.
problem with that is a QI still wouldn't fit if you drew another eye.
There's only one eye unseen, so it's not even
That's true.
that good a opportunity. And if he doesn't play QI and he burns his eye, that open eye is the only place to put the Q.
Yeah, that's an interesting point here, is that playing through to take out the lane and hold down the Q might be reasonable, but it's a lot better if he can do it in a way that keeps the eye on his rack.
How lucky does David Eldar feel? Will he let that floating S ride for one more turn?
It's funny, so it is a weird thing like that. I feel like QIS is the sensible play up top. It happened to get punished in this case, but it's not a bad choice. But can David get some kind of read on Nigel that he's holding a blank? David himself has said that Nigel tends to take longer when he's holding the blank. So is there something about the way Nigel handled the previous turn that might suggest to David he's holding blanks?
He's playing QIS. Oh. There we go, 32. So
That's clearly the right move.
it's the right move, but 3-3-7. That takes David too. But we're about to see 140 point blingo blingo. It's a double blingo. It's a bi blingo.
Yeah. This is going to be a little bit demoralizing for David, not so much because he's hitting a triple-triple, because he's doing it with both blanks, meaning David doesn't have another blank to draw to come back.
That's a 140 point play. Ghostier taking Nigel to 4-1-4. So he's from 59 down. If we can get a view of David Eldar's face now. Yeah, it's taking it okay. I think you just have to be objective about these things. It's well, yeah.
So David's still only about a bingo back, but he doesn't have a whole lot of time to waste at this point. He really needs to make something happen quickly here.
Nigel's picked out the J, so he has scoring power.
We can see David shaking his head a little bit.
Yeah.
He did a
heavy
very
score.
high scoring play of Cleep here. Yes, that is a nice play for keeping him in the game.
61 is that?
57.
57 for that, taking him to 3-9-4. So it does very much keep him in the game. He's only 20 points adrift despite the biblingo.
Yeah, I mean, David played well and he had a lead in the early going. Ghostier retook the lead for Nigel, but not by enough that he was able to put David away yet. There is still Scrabble to be played here.
There is, although the play of Cleep does restrict the flexibility of that opening out the bottom, and
But he's only 20 points down now.
20 points down
With Nigel on the move.
with
So
Nigel on move. Yeah.
we often talk about in Scrabble tempo. We say that Nigel has 20 points and tempo.
Yeah. What's Nigel going to play? Simple jog.
Nigel is still haunted by duplicate ends here, which might be David's biggest hope, that it's going to slow him down enough to give him a chance to get back in it.
It's got noun set up. Maybe underneath Aida, do you think?
I'm guessing he would play that further to the right to avoid giving more things to play through.
Yeah. It also scores more. K gone, blank gone. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
18 points for known. Taking to 4-3-2. Yeah, let's see.
Looks like David's rack camera has come loose. So we got a bird's eye view of Nigel right now.
He's got the eye of the tiger on his shirt.
So we don't know exactly what David's rack is at the moment here. What we do know is that Nigel is up 432 to 394.
Yes, got a 38-point lead. Got a 38-point lead with powerful tiles. The one remaining S.
Should mention that both players have played very quickly so far and have around 13 minutes on their clock, so they're going to have time to work out any subtleties and difficulties in this late game situation.
And neither player has done too much wrong in this. I think.
Oh yeah, QIS was definitely the right play on
Yeah.
David's part. He just happened to have bad luck that Nigel was poised to hit the triple at that point.
So So yes, it's 4-1-4. Sorry, 4-3-2 to Nigel Richards and 3-9-4 to David Eldar.
And we now know that David's rack is OOT rather.
With 11 tiles in the bag unseen.
Yeah, there's a very natural play of hoop here to the P, which scores well and leaves EELT, along with putting that H in nice position to bingo through.
He's looking at Holp instead because of the lack of ease.
Oh, there's something to be said for that. The bag is very, very consonant heavy now,
yeah.
so keeping an extra vowel makes some sense.
And the last two E's are on David Eldar's rack,
Yeah.
so
And even more consonant heavy if we take out the two O's that we know are on Nigel's rack.
Yes, but he doesn't know that. That's
No.
the thing. Holp is an interesting choice because, and I think it's opting not to do it now, because even though the bag is consonant heavy in general, the vowel that is most prevalent left behind is the O. So he doesn't necessarily want to keep more O's and risk going into many duplicate O's on his rack.
We also shouldn't overlook the fact that there is the M of Neem still open and the
Mhm.
D of Bardia. There are a lot of potential openings on this board for a low scoring bonus, but actually the scores are so close
Yeah.
that a low scoring bonus late game could
Yeah.
equally change everything.
Yeah, all those O's and N's, you could have a mono bingo, something like that, coming down from the M and Neem. Like monotone. I guess only David could get that because only he has E's.
In true radio DJ style, I need to give a shout out to my friend Hester, who's been on the phone talking to her mum about how exciting Scrabble is. Hope to see both of them in future World Championships.
I get the feeling David's going to play hoop here, which is a very natural play. Not to be saying that there couldn't be anything else better, but nothing wrong with playing hoop. It makes it 432 to Nigel and 421 to David. So David is only trailing by 11 points now, and the tempo, of course, but he's also got the fact in his favor that he has all the remaining E's, which means he probably has the better chances for a bonus at the end. Now, what can Nigel do with his J? He's got jow along the N-O in noun. Is that a word? We had a suggestion of a U-cycle, but I don't think it's playable, unless I misread the word that was written down.
yeah, Jow underneath noun is going to score well with J. With those two O's coming down, that'll give Nigel not much, but a bit more confidence that David might not be able to go underneath the J.
He's indeed playing jow. So part of Nigel's reasoning, I think, on this is not only to score good points, but with another O in hand, and he is well poised to keep making plays to score off that J. And he hopes that even if David hits a bingo on a different part of the board, that he can keep pace with the bingo by making these heavy scoring plays.
Yeah, or at the very least, he won't lose unless David does hit a bingo. And there are no, all of the bingo lanes on the board are a little bit awkward. They have to start with a vowel. They have to start with an M. They have to start with a D or an I.
Nigel on 4-6-7 now, so Nigel has a 46-point lead.
Yeah, we've had a comment about in-game timing. I don't know that that's that big concern yet now, because with David trailing by 40 points, he really needs to just keep himself in the game. So he needs to find some high-scoring plays that are going to do that job. He has, for instance, the YE under Noi and Ow. He can make Yet or Ye. I'm guessing he would rather play off the extra consonant, maybe even Yelt. Is Y-E-L-T a word?
Yes.
Because the bag is so consonant heavy that getting rid of more of those consonants might be good. But there are, let's see, 5 tiles in the bag now, so Yelt would leave 1 in the bag exactly.
I think it's important as well that David needs to block Nigel's beef tonsil. Okay, maybe not. That was less funny than I thought it was. Take it all back.
It's what's for dinner.
It is what's for dinner. I was having a conversation about beef curtains the other day. I didn't realise that beef curtains were actually a thing, but yeah, you can buy them in Borough Market.
Now, is a variation a possible extension could come up in this game? In fact, Nigel has it on his rack
Nigel
right now.
has it, yeah. Variants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that could come up.
Floating CA for Caliphonts.
Very
Yeah.
variations.
32, taking him to 453. It's Nigel 467 to David's 453, so 14 points in it.
So David's really done the job of keeping himself in striking distance and allowing for a good draw at the end to give him some winning chances here. It really will come down to the luck of how good the tiles are at the end for him, but he gave himself a chance, no question about it.
And what's he picking? He's not. So from Nigel's point of view, there's outdance unseen.
This is interesting. And Nigel is a heavy favorite, but it looks like he does not have a guaranteed win.
No.
Depending on the letters that are in the bag, or the single letter that's in the bag, even his best plays would there would be one chance if the wrong letter is in the bag that David would win.
Well, that's assuming that, well, that David has the right tiles, which we know he doesn't.
No, I know. What I'm saying is
Yeah,
from Nigel's
no,
point of view,
absolutely.
he has no guaranteed win.
Is there any way that he can accidentally... he won't accidentally set up David for a win, will he? He'll be thinking about how do I block across the bottom.
Yeah, so interestingly, the Varia extensions are important here because not only does Nigel have variation or variations, but from his point of view, David could have variated. In fact, he does have that as well.
So that's 33, but will it also allow David to go out the next turn? Can David do an out and 2 that starts with variated after Nigel blocks the potential unacted in the pool along the bottom?
It looks like, according to the computer, all of Nigel's best plays either hook an S at the end of Varia or at least play in that lane and stop the extensions of Varia.
So that's the bigger threat than the bonus. You know, based on the Quackle analysis, if David has the bonus, he's going to win. And if he doesn't, then Nigel needs to make sure that variated doesn't beat him.
Mm-hmm.
Which is quite a lot to work out. Nigel has plenty of time, and obviously he's the best at working these things out. But
One in the bag, 72 potential. 8, sorry, potential end plays. Not 2 in the bag. Only 8 potential end games, so this will be easy for Nigel.
Sorry, I missed it. What is the bingo from Nigel's point of view that David could have?
Unacted.
Unacted, yes.
yeah,
Or incudate. Would go across from the eye of Bordia. Oh, well, if he's got enacted, it goes. Sorry, I mean, it's the same rack.
Yep. Yeah, so if David had that rack, Nigel has to reason, I can't stop both unacted and incudate anyway. So I'm surely losing on that rack. I have to play as if he doesn't have that rack, and he does have plays that guarantee a win on any other rack. The best being things like Fawns and Finns, across making beef and Varias.
He should play Fons. Happy days.
Mm-hmm. Hey!
happy days for Nigel.
Yeah.
He is one accurate endgame from winning the World Championship.
Mm-hmm.
Or one inaccurate endgame. It only has to be good enough.
Yeah, and we have to give David credit here. He made a play that gave him a winning chance.
Yep.
Yelt kept the game close enough. He had a draw that if he got it, he would have come back and won the game.
Which, considering he's faced down a 9-timer in this, as well as a 60-point Z play and a 90-point other bonus, is quite impressive. He stayed in it, but obviously 3 bonuses of his own.
Yeah, usually if you're going to score close to 500 against Nigel, you'll take your chances, but I don't know if David Alder will get to 500, but it'll be close.
It's interesting that Nigel's taking so much time on this because, by his standard, this isn't a very difficult endgame. Maybe just because the stakes are so high, it's the winning the world championship. He just wants to be extra careful.
Or maybe he's just staring at David Eldar for the next 7 minutes. Yeah, I think throughout all the games today, we've seen top flight Scrabble from both players.
It really has been. I think of all the world championship matches I've seen, it's been one of the highest caliber. The only other one I can think of that really came very close was Nigel against Gomon in 2013 in Prague. That was also a very high quality final.
I can think of a couple of others. Hey.
Fawns, indeed. Yes, it was immaterial whether he played Fawns, Finns, Fills in that position.
Fawns,
they all are pretty much the same.
31 takes Nigel Richards to 498 and to a 28th world title, or however many that is now. 5? Insane. So for those who aren't aware, maybe tuning in for the first time, only one player in the world and in the history of Scrabble has won the World Championship in English more than once, and that is Nigel Richards. And I believe this is now his 5th.
I'm sure Nigel was very happy to draw that in as well.
Yeah.
So after the Fonz shows up, we have happy days for Nigel.
Absolutely. He will indeed outdance David Eldar tonight. Nigel has Intil set up on his rack, and there are 2 places to play Intil.
Mm-hmm.
So David now will just be checking to make sure that he's not missing anything. He'll be looking maybe off the MO, because he'll know relatively instantly that there's nothing through the H. He'll know that there are no 7s. He'll know that there's nothing off the I.
Yeah, the one thing that's probably worth spending the extra time for is looking for those 9s, but it's not going to happen for him in this position. Unless by some conjury he could get out a word added to the dictionary at the last minute.
Yeah. Mood acute.
Beef cadetu.
Sounds Japanese.
It's delicious. Oh, the sauce is
Yeah.
exquisite.
Or beef coutade if it's more French.
Beef coutade. Well, unfortunately, there's a face of a defeated man, but he can look back positively over these championships. He's played exceptionally well. Made very, very few mistakes in these finals, but he's up against one of the only men in the world who really doesn't make any mistakes. We can't really fault any decisions that Nigel has made, and even the ones that weren't immediately obvious to us, such as the designs play in that second game, the first game, really did turn out, after a lot of analysis, to be exceptional choices. The Jut choice in that first game as well simmed highest, and he chose it very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Even the end game we were discussing, where Quackle disagreed with Nigel, I sent a bug report to the developer of Quackle because it's clearly Nigel was correct.
Clearly Nigel was correct, absolutely.
So at some point, David's got to shift gears from realizing he's got no bingo to just figuring out his best out in the end game here, if he cares to math it out.
He might have to do some interviews with the press, so he should probably play something rude.
What's the dirtiest thing that David Eldar might be able to play?
It's not a great deal, unfortunately, is there?
Let's not actually give the suggestions on air.
No. David does have Chode right now. which I think is a past tense of chide, just to be clear for those who like definitions.
Brett is not being cheeky at all.
Nope, no, past tense of to rebuke or scold. So yeah, David definitely has the option of chode going on the board. Not a lot else to... He doesn't really have many scoring opportunities, does he? It's, I do quite like beef coutard, actually. With a light peppercorn sauce. I guarantee it would make a headline or two. In fact, I'm going to Google beef coutard now just to see if I can, if I in any way can find an example of it, because it sounds too good. Oh, do you mean beef croustade? Oh.
If only he had the letters for that.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah, if he plays beef coutard, then it's going to show up in one of those little videos that show you how to cook.
Yeah.
Just like beef, and then this is how you make the coutard sauce. Don't even know.
I think we've just launched David's TV chef career in this this one commentary. And what else could he be looking at? Oh, he's just making absolutely sure, isn't he, that cathode. A touched. No, a touched wouldn't fit. Touchard. Quoad. It's all.
So which is the best sequence?
Well,
The best sequence is cod atop hoop. It's 1 point better than playing quoad.
yeah, Intil is out
Yeah.
anyway, so it's simply.
It's just a matter of math here. It's not that
Score as
hard to
many
figure out
points,
because
yeah.
it's a guarantee that Nigel's going out the next turn.
So we're saying just COT for 22 across the top of hoop. 475. Accept defeat. But while David will have wanted to obviously win his second world title, I think it's fair to say he will accept defeat at the hands of the world's best. And on a different day, the tiles may have flown slightly differently.
Yeah, David really didn't do anything wrong in this
No.
game. He played pretty close to perfectly, I think. It just happened that Nigel had a little extra with the tiles.
That 2 blank pull
Yeah.
leading to the blingo.
Oh, interesting. So he's he's played quote, so that if Nigel now plays a phony, David can go out with CAD and quoted to win.
He's looking for a glitch in the matrix.
David up to 469. But you know what? That is a great play. We can't take it away from him. That is absolutely the right play. It doesn't matter who you're playing. You always have to play to give yourself a win.
Yep.
Nigel will now go out with a lint. Or actually, no, go across the top with lint. Even better. 12 points and out.
Yeah.
510 to Nigel. +6, 516 to 463. Ladies and gentlemen, with a final match score of 3 games to 1, your Mattel 2019 World Scrabble Champion is, and still is, the greatest of all time, Nigel Richards. And in second place, let's spare a thought for David Eldar. Put up a fantastic performance in getting this far once again to face his now nemesis. But brilliant work by Nigel, brilliantly played by David. And hopefully we'll be able to take you through a little bit later on to the presentations for the top 8, including the third place victor Paul Gallen from Northern Ireland. Paul, also one of the world's very best and someone that I certainly back to follow, well, those two gentlemen in the screen and myself as being a future world champion.
So I do think that we had a possibly remarkable conclusion here, and that this final game of the World Championship match was, I believe, just about perfectly played by both players. I think they both made ideal plays on every single turn, no mistakes at all. So an awesome thing to see.
Yeah, and we saw that through most of the games of this series. You can count on one hand probably the number of errors or real questions that we had about what plays came down. So top level of Scrabble being put on display today.
516 to 463.
That doubles.
Yeah, I know.
It
I'm
does,
just
it
trying to work it out. 516, 463.
ready to go? All right. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Chris Leip, the new chairman of the World English Scrabble Players Association. On behalf of WESPA, thank you. On behalf of WESPA, I'd like to thank everybody who made this event such a great success. We have another World Championship in the books. Thank you to Amy Byrne, our TD, and Steve Perry and Ash Koldrick on the computers. Thank you to Bex and the TMA staff who put this event on. And thank you very much to Mattel and to Collins, whose support of our community makes World Championship events like this possible. Thank you so much. All right, we have some prizes to give out. So we'll start with in the B division, finishing in 6th place, winning $100, Monis Khan. Congratulations. Okay. All right, in 5th place, winning $100 US, Hamad Hadi Khan. Congratulations. Thank you. In 4th place in the B division, winning, he's not here. He already got his prize. Adowe Ebekeme won $250. He had to leave, got his prize already. Winning the 3rd place match in the B division, winning $500, Hassan Hadi Khan. Thank you. Making it to the final match of the B division, but coming up just short, finishing 2nd, which is an amazing finish, winning $1,000, Mirza Taha. Congratulations. And winning the B division at this World Scrabble Championship, winning $1,500, is Daniel Sanula. Congratulations. All right, now for the finishers in the A division. Finishing 8th place in the A division, losing in the quarterfinals in a remarkable matchup with Nigel Richards. A young man with a very bright future, winning $150, Ali Saeed Imad. Very well done. Finishing 7th place, losing a heartbreaking quarterfinal to David Eldar, winning $150, one of my friends and countrymen, Dave Wiegand. Finishing in 6th place, winning $200. Another one of my countrymen, making his first World Scrabble Championship knockout round. Great result, winning $200, Jason Keller. In 5th place, winning $400, the former runner-up in the World Championship, like myself, is Harshan Lamabata-Surya. The 4th place finisher had to leave to catch his flight early, but also from the U.S., winning $600 was Peter Armstrong. Winning the 3rd place match this morning in a grueling 5-game session, winning $1,000 from Northern Ireland, Paul Gallen. And so we all saw what was a pretty epic battle in the finals right here. Is some of the best played Scrabble I've seen. We mentioned on the commentary stream, it's perhaps the best finals we've seen since the one in Prague, which also featured near flawless play. But coming up just short, winning $3,500, he's a former world champion in his own right. Finishing 2nd this year is David Eldar.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah. Over here.
Up.
Okay, you got
Thanks,
it?
man.
Okay, yep. And then winning what I think is his 5th World Championship, the repeat winner. He's been winning tournaments all over the world pretty consistently for at least the last year and a half or so, and a long time before that. The greatest one we've ever seen to play the game, winning $8,000, the only Nigel Richards. Congrats again. All right, thank you all for attending, and hopefully we'll see all of you next year.